Good day and welcome to the ITIL 2011 Foundation Courseware Redesign webinar. We started 2 minutes after the hour because we just wanted everybody to have the opportunity to join us, and it was good that I did because people were still onboarding as the hour passed. So we'll start up slowly now and then give people the opportunity to join us as we go along. So welcome on board and let's get started. I'll have to ask George to turn the slide, please. Thank you, George. First of all, I'd like to introduce the people who you'll be listening to today. The first person is myself, Frank Krombach, responsible for solutions within Quint Wellington Redwood. And the person you'll be hearing in a moment will be George Kemmerling. And George, I'll introduce him a little bit more if we're a little bit further down. Looking at the operational side of today's webinar, during the webinar, everybody will be on mute. That is simply to make the webinar easier to listen to and to give everybody the opportunity to fully listen to what will be said. During the webinar, obviously, we can imagine that there will be questions, so feel free to use the Q&A box. The Q&A box is on the right lower hand side of your screen. There you can type the question, which we will see automatically, and we will answer all your questions at the end of the webinar. Should you have any technical issues, then please also use the Q&A box, and we do have support standing by to help you out immediately. Looking at the time of the presentation today, we're looking at about 20 minutes of content, which George will be presenting, after which we will have about 10 minutes to answer all the questions that may have come in. And we are recording this webinar so that those people who wanted to attend but were unable to for whatever reason, or if you'd like to listen to it again, obviously, it will be available for you to go back to later on. So why this webinar? What's the objective of this? First of all, it's to inform you about the update of courseware. And we've changed a couple of things, and George will go through the content with you in a moment. And instead of just launching a new product on you without you knowing exactly what the changes are, we thought it good to introduce it to you and to show you exactly the changes so that you know where it will go from here. This moment will also be the launch of the new materials, so that means that from today on we will be able to deliver the new materials, and we'll go into that a little bit later too. As I said, George is going to go over the changes within the material and also look at some highlights of how the material looks now. Then obviously a very important part is to answer your questions, the questions that may arise either during, before, or after the webinar. Please feel free to ask us, as I said, during, but if you have any questions later on, then please also come back to us later. There's a couple of things that I do want to point out very clearly. There is no new version of ITIL 2011 Foundation. The course has not changed. As you may have seen that after the invitation, you got a rectification from us. Well, it seems that some people in the market were slightly confused about the announcement that we made and thought that we said that there was a brand new ITIL 2011 Foundation course. This is not the case. The course has not changed, only our material has changed. You will also see that the materials have gone from a version 6 to a version 7, and that has nothing to do with the version numbers of ITIL 2011 itself. So just to be totally clear on that. Okay, as I said, I'm going to introduce you now to George Kemmerling, and George is kind of an all-rounder on our material side. George is head of our practice desk, and our practice desk is a part of our organization that develops our courseware material. Then George is also the chairperson of our portfolio board, and in the portfolio board we discuss which courses we have, what the life cycle is of the course, where they are, whether they need any changes, updating whatsoever, whether we need to add titles to our portfolio. All these kind of things are discussed in the portfolio board, and George chairs that. And from a content matter side, George is a lead trainer and he's a consultant, so a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge there. And George also kind of piloted and guided the project on the development of this new ITIL Foundation course material. So I'd like to hand over to George now. He'll take you through the content side, I'll be back on the other side of the presentation where we will go through questions and we'll finish up everything. So, George, it's all yours.
To start with why we did this redesign, well, as you know, in 2011 we had an update on ITIL v3, and since then we've been doing little improvements to our training, and each time it was a different consultant with his own view on what should be told and how it should be told, and as a result it kind of gave more than it was supposed to give in the training, and it lacked a bit of cohesion. And the foundation training is a training where you really don't want to overfeed your students, because you've got 3 days and 36 processes and 4 functions to discuss, and if you underfeed them, they have difficulty passing the exam. If you overfeed them, they will not remember everything, and so they will have a hard time bringing it home and using it in their own work. So the foundation is a training you need to tune properly to the students, and we felt it is time to use our experience and retune this training to what is needed and what the students want. And let me see. So actually what we had is the training with its basic goals that introduces the key ITIL terminology and helps delegates to pass the ITIL Foundation certification exam. And what we put on top of that as the redesign goals is that we want a bit more excitement. It's very dull to see 400 slides with always the same bullets passing by, and with a reader which has more text than you need to read, so you kind of get tired reading it. So and we said we wanted to create an excitement that will carry students into the higher modules, the capability and the life cycle, intermediates, and the MALC, and maybe now coming in this year the new practitioner. At the same time, we said we need to focus at the basics that need to be understood and that need to be used in daily work context, and skin it down again to exactly what is required, and take away some of the superfluous information. Let me see. I have problems skipping to the next slide here. It's not reacting. Okay, here we are. So we've looked into our teaching experiences over the last years and said, what are the points where we want to renew the training? And the first point was the storyline. And what we've learned is that if you talk for 1.5 hours to a group of students, and then you take a coffee, and then after the coffee you ask them, can you reproduce what we talked about this morning? And most of the students will look at you with an empty look in their faces and not remember what it was all about. And our conclusion was that it must be the result of a passive way of learning. That means that the teacher gives everything and the student is just leaning back and not actively participating. So we needed to look at ways to get the students more actively involved in the training. And one of them is that you start with a storyline. You can tell a metaphor or a real-life story, or ask them to come up with a real-life story, or you can use the news and say, you know, did you read that the so-and-so bank, the whole e-banking was down and was a big complaint in the market, and it was all over the news. So stuff like that. And you use these cases to discuss with everybody, like, for example, with incident management, what is it you're talking about? What is an incident? What is the impact? And you can even have a little discussion about it. And once the students have a better view of what it is they are talking about, then you give more detailed theory. But if you give detailed theory before the students have a picture in their head, then it doesn't sink in so well. So we worked on a storyline. And we worked on the look and feel and said, we want to get rid of all those slides with boring bullets, and we want to make it more playful and more interesting. And also then it helps if you refocus the content and give just exactly what is needed and not more, so it doesn't become heavy and overload of information. At the same time, we checked for some minor omissions and issues and improved that. And then we renewed our graphics designs. And for example, if you look at the original diagrams that are in the OGC AXELOS books, they are sometimes, let's say, they are complicated and not easy to look at. And as a trainer, you want to explain the slide, but the first second you show it, you lose your students. They're all staring at a complicated picture, trying to understand it, and they don't hear what you're saying. So we decided that the graphics should be more supportive of the learning process. And in doing this, in skimming down the ITIL Foundation to the bare necessity, we made the product easier to manage, to release, and to translate. Less text, better structure, makes it easier to manage and easier to translate. And we've incorporated a feedback loop where we are hoping that you will give us feedback on the quality, so that this is a live product that can be changed anytime. You don't have to wait half a year for a new release. Also, what we changed the way exercises are done in this material. In the old material, you had a case study, and then you had exercises, and everybody had to read the case study. And we thought it's heavy, and we wanted something more playful. So we've created some topics like availability management topic, and then we've a little exercise that the group can do together. And you don't have to read a case; you just have to read the question and work on an example. And in that way, the exercises are more playful and easier to be used during the training. So, as a matter of fact, if you look here at the bottom of the page on the right, you see how bullets can be created. Here we have a cascade from what used to be bullets, but now they are blocks with arrows going down from one to the next. And on the left, you see how we create overviews that you can talk about and say, okay, we zoom in the content, and then we go back to the overview and say, okay, in which block are we now, and what's the next block? And then you zoom in to the content again. So this is a visualization that helps understand the process, and you can have a plenary discussion and say, okay, how would that work in your company, or what is your experience with this topic? You can do a small exercise. Then you do a deep understanding of the theory, like with incident management. That's only now is the moment when we start talking about priorities, classification, horizontal escalation or vertical escalation, stuff like that. At the end, we have a quiz or group exercise, and again, all of this is focused to keeping the student involved in an active way and not allowing him to lean back and consume and forget everything again the moment you've talked about it. We want the students to be involved and energetic, and this type of sequence will help keeping them more involved in the training process. Refocusing the content on what the AXELOS Foundation syllabus requires means that a lot less information on the slides, and it makes them more easy to study. Actually, all the information that the students need for the foundation exam are on the slide deck. And as a result, we have dispensed with the notes which are under the slides, and which was a lot to read. And we've taken it all out, and now it's space where they can take notes. So all the key concepts are now on the slides. Another thing we said is, over the years, different subject matter experts worked on the materials, and they had different views and different preferences, and even they were from different parts of the world, so they had a different language skill or language habits. Like somebody who is native speaker in the USA will have different constructions than somebody from the UK, for England, or from India. So in the rewrite, we try to make the language, the phrasing, and everything more consistent, so it's a more recognizable and more easygoing material. We created a new slide template, and to give you an idea, I will skip a few slides forward now, and then we'll come back to this slide. Here, this is what the slide looks like now. And so we have a banner on top, which in small letterings gives you the title of the course, and in big letterings it'll tell you what module you're in. At the bottom left, there is a small line of text, which is the release code for this courseware. And so like this, it looks all a bit more modern, fresh, new compared to the old materials. Let me go back to where we were. Here. Another thing we've done is we've made the graphics more simple. If you look at the left, that is classically how the graphic is done in the AXELOS book, and if you look on the right, we've simplified things and made it more snappy to look at. Again, here at the bottom, you see different types of how you can deal with bullets, and I've been here already on this slide. We worked with the SMEs to make the language and the grammar more consistent. Here again, you see on the left is a diagram that used to be that is still in the AXELOS books. And this is the type of diagram where when you show it, you lose the class. They all start looking at the complex arrows and try to understand the flow. And as a trainer, you can talk or you can keep silent. It doesn't make any difference. They are all absorbed in the picture. And that's how we redesigned it on the right-hand side, which is much simpler to look at. And so you keep the focus of the class on the trainer and not on the graphic. Yeah, so that's one of the examples of how we try to simplify the graphics. I've been here. This is the typical Q&A that we do at the end of each module. So this is at the end of module 6, a number of questions about module number 6, which was continual service improvement. So these are CSI questions. And again, that is to make sure that the trainees are, the participants are all in an active learning mode. Going forward, this course is accredited and is released, and a sample will be available on the partner portal this week. And the English courseware version 6 will be phased out. And we've created a procedure for managing errors or for catching improvements. That is, it's a form, a digital form that we are asking you to to instruct your trainers to fill that in. They can open it, and during breaks they can alt tab to it and make notes on what they want improved. And we have a training now that it's made so that it's easy to update and release. So we'd rather have lots of small improvements continuously and making it better than that we have once every half year a redesign. We want to change our way from doing that to a more continual product which is alive, and we need your help for that. So for that we have a feedback form. That's the content part. So I'm handing the microphone back to Frank and to see if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, George. Yes, we do have a couple of questions. We got a question about whether this is a new version of ITIL Foundation. And just to reiterate, no, it's still the same ITIL Foundation course. It hasn't changed. The only thing we've updated is the courseware. Another question that came in was whether the exam and sample exams have changed. And they too have not changed unless AXELOS changes them, because we do not develop the exam, neither do we develop the sample exams. So they stay the same until AXELOS comes with an update. Another question that we got was about the translations, the languages. Currently we have ITIL Foundation in multiple languages, and just to think out loud, I know that we have obviously English, which is the core language, but things like German, Polish, French, Spanish, probably Japanese. So we have multiple languages. For now, the change will be for the English language first, and then as we go along, we will update the translated languages with the people who have translated it for us. So that is a process that will be ongoing. Let's see. Will trainers need to get reaccredited on this new version? No. All trainers and everything remain accredited as they are, so no change there, because also the material is the only change. The course itself has not. You see, the case study, is it phased out of the course material entirely? George, maybe you can answer that best.
Yes, well, as I said, we found that the old case study with exercises was not giving much energy in the class, and trainers have told us that, oh, usually they skip it and they do their own thing, and not many were using it. So we were thinking, how can we make it better and more playful? And we decided we make self-contained exercises that are for a certain topic, gives you all the information, easy to read, and more, let's say, you need less time to understand the exercising, have more time to start exercising. So we hope that you will like it.
Yeah, and on top of that, what George also said is that we heard that lots of trainers actually use their own cases, which they like and which they feel familiar with, and use that in the storyline too. So, yeah. Okay, so I think that covered at least all the questions we had up till now. If there are any more questions, or if you feel that you have another question coming up, then as long as we're on the webinar, please feel free to pop them in. And if I see them coming in, I will answer them right away. Okay, let's continue. George, if you could move the slide, please. Okay, so just to recap, why is it interesting to you? I think it's interesting because the materials are not only new, but they're also better. And we've tried to create, as George already said, a much better experience for the candidate and a nicer way of learning. It's also a great marketing potential because now you have a new and updated course, so you can go back to the market and be strong with it. Because even though ITIL Foundation in the market is very often said to be a commoditized product, still ITIL Foundation is in the IT service management, the introduction to IT service management. And next to that, if we see the number of people that actually take an ITIL Foundation course around the world, that is around about 250,000 people every year. First quarter of this year has already been something like 70,000 people have taken the ITIL Foundation course worldwide. So it was valuable and it stays valuable. Also, I think a very good point is that the new materials still come at the old price. So for our partners, there is no increase in cost, and that means that to your candidates, you can offer more value for the same price. So that's really good. it's already available, accredited, and everything, as George already pointed out. It's been tested, and we already had some feedback from partners in which they saw a couple of minor mistakes. So there's already a version 7.01, if I'm not mistaken. And what's also nice is that the Lean IT Foundation course, for which we will send out an announcement shortly, has been built in the same structure. And next to that, the structure is similar. This will also be the structure that we'll be using for future designs. The cohesion between Lean IT and ITIL Foundation is very, very strong. So that is also a very, very interesting topic to look into for yourselves and for your market into the near future.
If I may add something, Frank, the module in ITIL, which is called Continuous Service Improvement, is a bit academic. And Lean IT is actually the very practical way of implementing CSI, and it fits nicely together. The Lean IT is a 2-day course, so if you combine it with a 3-day foundation, you can do a week's training with Foundation and Lean IT Foundation, and it's a very nice combination. And anyhow, Lean IT is a good way of revisiting old ITIL customers and offer them something new that fits with what they've already done. So, and that's why it's nice that both trainings now are in the new format and layout and fit together.
Absolutely. Thanks, George. Okay, if we move on. So, how do we go from here? There's basically 2 options. If you're already a partner of Quint Solutions, you can start ordering the new materials right away, in English, obviously, because they're only available in English. If you're not yet a partner of Solutions, then let us know that you're interested, and we will get you started as quickly as possible. So how can you show your interest? Well, you can reach us in a lot of ways. First of all, obviously, through your normal contact. Then through quintgroup.com as the general website. For Solutions, we have solutions.quintgroup.com, and for individual candidates, they can go to academy.quintgroup.com.